Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. I have a special guest in the studio today named Denise. I don't know your last name. What is your last name?
Wrangle.
Denise Wrangle.
Yes,
Okay, I was like,
Wrangle.
did I say that right? Did
Like
people?
Wrangler,
Yeah,
but like Wrangle.
like wrangle, like you wrangle your kids in.
Yes.
We actually have a class going on right now, and Denise is one of my licensed artists. So I have an academy called DKW Styling Academy. Some of you that are avid listeners of the podcast, you maybe know about Natural Beauty Rose. It's a hair extension system that I created. And then the academy was to really serve a need that I saw a piece of the puzzle missing in our industry, which was really business, marketing, and sales. And truthfully, for an artist and a hairstylist, it's mindset. I feel like our industry is so looked down upon it, like, oh, I'm just a hairstylist.
Yes.
And it's so looked down upon that we even believe that, to the point where we have so many limiting beliefs inside of our industry that's kind of like part of the reason I created the academy. Was like, yeah, give artists like business and structure, but I also was like, we gotta let them know their value and set boundaries and all the things. So Denise, tell us where your salon is and tell us a little bit about you.
So I am a suite owner / renter. I work at a Sola, and I am from Fresno, California. I have been doing hair for, I believe, 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah. When you ask me,
Yeah.
I'm like, shit.
I think I'm
was a
right.
long time ago.
I'm right up there with you. I stopped counting after 20.
So yeah, that long. And I am just moving into a larger suite. I was in the standard, and so this week I'll be starting in a larger suite. And I just hired an assistant about 5 weeks ago.
Nice.
So here we are, big things.
Big things are happening. So what is it when you're in a smaller suite to a larger suite? Is it just have more chairs?
More room, just more room.
Just more
And,
room?
I mean, I am able to fit another chair in there for
That's
sure.
good.
So yeah.
I would say too, like, I feel like once you start doing extensions, it's kind of nice to just have a second chair. You know what I mean? I don't do like double booking, and I don't know if you do either. It's almost impossible if you don't have an assistant.
Yeah.
But I would always just do like a little bit of like an overlap. You know what I mean? And so at that point, I had to have two chairs. But that's great. So now you got an assistant. You got a bigger space.
Yes.
And are you primarily doing just MBR? Tell us about your services.
No, I still do NBR. I still do color, luxury highlights, all of that. I don't take haircut only guests. I don't do kids. I don't do men haircuts. And yeah, so I still do offer color, but it works.
It
Yeah.
works.
Mhm.
Would you say you're like 50-50, like half extension, half color? You primarily color?
I mean, I think I am 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah, like half and half.
Do you want to be like 90-10?
My goal is to be all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's
And that's why I have my assistant. Like,
Yeah.
That's kind of
That's
my
like
goal.
that's the next step. And that's good though. I think too it's important to, like, if that's your next step, then it's like, okay, set another goal, like when is the date that you want to make that transition? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I love color. I'm sure you do too. I feel like a lot of artists, especially inside the MBR world, like they're really good colorists, and that's what attracts them to MBR, because MBR is so blendy and seamless, and it's just like a luxury. It's just a beautiful. Everybody does such great work, and I think it's because we have like a lot of really good colorists come in, so it's like hard to say no to wanting to do those colors. But like, I'm sure you'll get to the point where you're like, I am over it, and there's like no smooth transition, right?
Yeah,
There's no smooth transition. Okay, so are you married and do you have kids? I can't remember.
Yes, I am married.
You have 9
I've
kids.
been married. It'll be 20 years.
We're
February.
on the same boat.
Really?
I've been doing hair for over 20 years, and I'll be married 20 years this August.
Okay. Yeah.
How many
And
kids do you guys
I
have?
have? Two.
Two.
My daughter is 13 and my son's 9.
Oh, cute. So I have, I mean, I have
Yeah.
my 4 girls. I thought I was just going to have 2, and then I took a break and had 4. So that's fine. So so they're older, so they're in school. So now you kind of have a little more. I feel like when kids are like littler, it's like the mom guilt really like sinks in. And it's like now that they're probably older, it's probably you're like, okay, I got to get focused and want to do just MBR.
I still feel like I have mom guilt.
I know.
Like, currently, even, I mean, I missed a lot of younger times because I hustled so much. And then once I had this mindset from BMS, that's when I started shifting my schedule and realizing how much I missed and how much I needed to be home. So my goal still is to get off even earlier. I only work 3 days a week now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So to get to 2 days and to be off by 3.
Nice. That's how it starts. It's so crazy because like I was in a similar spot. I mean, this was like in the beginning when I was kind of like hustling and building my brand, but I got to this place where I was like, it became a numbers game. I'm like, I can't, if I want to make more money, like I can't do colors anymore. Like I was doing the math. I was like, I just can't. And I had done like a super long day at the salon one day, and I'm like driving home, like crying, and the mom guilt's really like setting in. And that next day I'm talking to Garrett. I'm like, he's like, drop all your color clients. I'm like, I can't, you don't understand. He's like, I do understand. Drop all your color clients. And it's crazy. Instead of doing that, because I was like, that's aggressive, Garrett. I doubled my prices overnight for color. So I went from like 200 to like 400, and my clients were like, wow, that's a big leap. Good for you. And I was like, yeah, because I just want to focus on extensions. And the funny thing is I only lost like, I mean, I lost a few clients, but a lot of them stuck. And I was like, damn it. So then I got to this place where I kind of had to just say, hey, I'm no longer like taking on color clients. Your next appointment will be your last one. And it was scary because I had a lot of gaps on my books. I think that's like an artist's biggest fear is like a gap on your book. You're like, oh my God, I'm losing money. But really,
the tools that we were given by you guys, it's like, no, you still have shit to do.
Yeah.
You have work that can be done there.
It's still scary though.
Yeah,
it's still scary. But you know what? You're on the right path because you're like, I got an assistant. And then you're like, it kind of puts a little pressure under you. Like, well, if I'm paying an assistant,
I really need
and I got a bigger space, my overhead just went up. So then you're like, I got to make more money. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because we were just talking about like limiting beliefs and like, there's an artist right now. I'm not going to name names, but there's an artist we were just talking about too. That's. And a lot of artists in our industry do this where they have like a second job. You know what I mean? They say, well, I have to have this job to make ends meet. And it's like, well, maybe it's just, the difference of like a price increase, or maybe it's like just focusing on only marketing extensions. But it's just crazy how in our industry, like the limiting beliefs are real. You know what I mean? Like, tell me on some of like just being in the academy, what were some of like your big limiting beliefs where you were just like, I can't operate this anymore? Like, was it just like a slow progression, or was there like, for me, there's always like pivots inside my story and inside my career where I'm like, that's the moment I said like, no more men's cuts, or that's the moment that I was like, I'm only working 3 days a week. You know what I mean?
For me with services was, at first I was like, you guys are crazy. And then when I did the math and knew my numbers, I'm like, this is a waste of freaking time.
Right.
And everything was cheaper, but it was still taking the same amount of time. And even just with a women's haircut only, like I only take guests that they can't just be like, I need a haircut. Like,
right.
No, sorry, go over here, you know? So doing that and then realizing how much time I missed. So I did that first with my services, and then I cut my hours down as far as days, and I was still working late. So I would work like 9 to 9.
Did you make more money? Like, so say you're like, I'm not taking haircuts anymore. Did you lose money when you decided to do that? And then when you decided to work, I mean, you might have worked longer days, but when you cut your days down, or for me, I feel like I condensed mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like everything still stayed the same, like financially, because I was always also doing like price increases. So I was trying to balance it out.
So now you started making the same, if not more, but you have more free time.
Correct. So I only work 3 days a week, and I'm off by 5:30.
Nice.
And my goal now is to be off by 3.
By 3. So because that's like what time I feel like the kiddos are.
Yes, because I want to pick my kids up.
Yeah. It's crazy, though. You can do it, though. I remember when I finally hired my first assistant, I was working 3 days a week, taking 3 clients a week. And it was the difference of I got done at either 7 or 4 o'clock. I was like, oh my gosh, I can go home and make dinner and pick up my kids. Like, it was like life-changing. I was like, wow. I didn't know
how much you missed.
Yeah. Like, I was like, I like the pickup routine. Like, I missed that. You know what I mean? I didn't get to experience that.
We were able to just, I was a completely different mother and wife getting off early.
I was gonna say, did your husband notice? Yeah, he's like, you're alive.
You do exist.
Yeah.
Because I was only seeing them. We'd wake up at 6, go to school.
Yeah.
And I'd get home, and sometimes they'd be asleep.
Yeah.
Like, no,
yeah.
never again.
I get it. I mean, like I said, I feel like I've experienced everything you guys have experienced. That's kind of why I'm like, I understand. Like, it's great. The money's not good enough when you're coming home and you don't get to see your kids. You're just like, why am I doing this? And it's not like the only way. So a lot of hairstylists will be like, screw it, I'm going to stop doing hair. But it's honestly, it's like, okay, well, even if you went and did another job, like maybe your hours are less or whatever it is. But I'm like, I can't imagine that you can't create the life you want with doing hair. You know what I mean? Like I watched a really old video of me last night, but it was like, I was like, sometimes it's like people don't understand, like the tool right in front of you is you can create whatever you want. You just have to have enough certainty and belief in the beginning.
Yourself.
Yeah, just to kind of go. So
and you need that kind of like tribe around you to also support you, because when you have people on this side telling you you can't, or why are you doing that, or just questioning you, it makes you feel like you can't. So then you have people on the other side telling you, yes, you can do it, because we've been there, or you've been there, you know. It's still hella scary, but
it's like there's support on the other side. Yeah. I think too, a lot of times it's like I always feel like when you're hearing, especially in the salon culture, you like feel the whispers, I say. You know what I mean? You feel the whispers, like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
Who does she think she is? And ultimately, I think it's because people, like, when you're doing something different, it basically says to them, like, you don't like where we're at? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with where we're at? What's wrong with just taking haircuts? And why can't you just be happy with where you're at? So it's almost like the whispers start because people are, like, offended that you want to grow, that you want more. They're like, you're not happy with me? Yeah. And it isn't. I think once you get bitten by, like, the growth bug, you're like, oh,
you never look back again.
Yeah, you're like, oh, and like it never stops getting easier, but at least you have this understanding of like on the other side of fear is growth, you know?
Yeah.
So it's crazy. So what's been your biggest, like inside the academy, what's been like some of your biggest moves? Just like you said, just kind of transitioning and kind of getting your life back with your family. And are you doing date nights? You and your husband, are you more than just roommates?
So
is that your next
for
text?
a while. Things have kind of changed this year a little bit. We had some stuff happen family wise. So we've kind of taken a step back from that, but still trying to make time at the end of the day for each other. But it is important, 100%. I do agree.
Yeah,
that you need that.
I tell Garrett all the time, I'm like, I have no friends because I don't have time for friends. But more importantly, like we try to like not miss a date night.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's when it like that space you start to feel like roommates or a little bit like disconnected or just like, hey, high five you on the way out kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you lose, for me, it's like I lose like those, I've been married for 20 years and I still am like, if we spend a lot of time together, I'm excited to see him. If we don't spend a lot of time together, I'm just like, I love you, but I don't care. Like I don't really, like I lose the care factor. I'm kind of like, I think I'll just go to bed. You want to go on a date?
Yeah.
No.
I'm tired.
It's 8:30 because I'm going to bed, like literally. And so I always joke around too. I'm like, sometimes you got to force fun. You know what I mean? Like even if it's like your kids go to bed and you're like, babe, we're having our own date night at our house. We're watching a movie or Netflix or whatever. You know, I'm gonna.
Yeah, we do that. I never thought of that like a date night, but yeah.
I mean, I feel like if the kids are in bed, I mean, maybe I was gonna say just put on some high heels and walk, pretend like
he'd love that,
right? Then it's a date night. Then it's a good time. But yeah, it's crazy because like I am very passionate about helping artists because it's like I just see so many of them like either lose belief in the hair industry and do something else, or the other side of it is they just like burn themselves out to the ground. You know what I mean? And so I really do love like our tribe and our community because it's like it's such a positive space, and I feel like everybody's like encouraging everybody and kind of like, no, you can do it, you can do it. But then inside of that, it's like, have you ever been cheering somebody on and you're like, I think I'm cheering myself on right now.
Yeah,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
taking my own advice.
Yeah, right.
This is what I needed to
Yeah,
hear.
exactly. You're like, I think I need to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes like I do that all the time when I'm like sharing something that I feel like is like motivational. I'm like, that's for me, not for anybody else. That's just for me. But it's good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if you were to give a new artist just getting into the hair industry a word, some words of wisdom from Denise, what would it be?
To always be a student.
I like it.
100%. So just even being here at the intensive, like, I've learned so much. And I was thinking, I'm not going to learn that much. Like, I've been doing it for 5 years. Like, no. My notebook is like crammed full. So always be a student. Don't let anyone tell you your prices are too much. And even the negativity from other stylists, it's always going to be there. Whether you're in a salon or in a suite or whatever, everyone's going to judge, but you do you and what's best for you, and just keep growing. Don't give up, and don't let people make you feel like you're doing too much.
Yeah, there's no such thing as that. I love that. Don't let people think that you are doing too much. And I love the quote. Have you heard? It's like, you'll never be criticized by somebody who's doing more than you.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's true. It like there's a lot of truth to that. So I feel like for young stylists, I'm always like saying, hey, just tunnel vision and focus on you. I love that you said, like, sometimes you have to like focus on you. And the other thing too is like, I would say for a young artist, I would say, if you had a piece of paper, a notebook, and you could create your dream schedule, your dream, I'm like, I hate saying like a vision board, but like if you could literally create your dream outcome as what it looked like with the hours, the clients, the services, like everything. I mean, we could even do that as long as we've been doing here, right? If you were to like physically like write it down and then reverse engineer and be like, okay, step number 1, how do I get this specific clientele? Well, I want to do just extensions, or I want to do just color corrections, or whatever it is you want to do. And then it's like, and I need to charge XYZ to make this amount of money. You know what I mean? It's like, it all can be broken down to a possibility, but I think that we don't want to like break it down factually, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we immediately like create a dream story and say, well, I can't have that. Like, I can't get there. But if you literally like break it down. Yeah, it's like, little okay. Steps. And it could be something as simple as like, okay, well, I need a bigger space and I need an assistant. And that's where I'm going to start. And then once I get my assistant trained, then maybe you're going to like double your color prices or whatever it is, and see if that opens up a little more space to then get some extension clients in, or whatever makes the most money for you behind the chair. You know what I mean? So I would just say dream big. My advice to a new artist would just be dream big, and don't let the title of a hairstylist or an artist dictate what you can do in this life. Like I started my brand 10 years ago, and I'm like amazed. 10 years seems long, but it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, for how much happened in 10 years, I'm like super excited for the next 10 years. I'm like, where is this going to be in the next 10 years? You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to just say thanks for being on the podcast. It's kind of a short one today because I actually have to go home and pack for Florida.
Yeah, it's okay.
And I want to get Kat in here to do one more podcast. But I love having new students and just like sharing your story, because you guys have grown so much just being inside the education. You're doing stuff that artists, no matter where you live, you're just saying like, no, I'm putting my foot down. I am working 3 days a week. I want time back with my family and my kids. It is possible. And so I love seeing that in other artists, and I love hearing their stories. So thanks for coming on to the show. And I never know how to end these. I'm like, all right, you guys, we'll see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. We'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. If you want more information about my education, go to nbr.education. Right now we have the Academy program, or if you're like, oh, I don't know what this Academy is, it sounds crazy, we also have an online course if you just kind of want to get your feet wet. But obviously we're avid fans of the Academy because I've seen so many students come in and have an immense amount of growth in such a short period of time. So thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you next week on another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast.